Osiris.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Goose Chicks Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Leslie Mack. I'm so excited. This actually is sort of a one-off episode. Our first episode will be coming out in a couple of weeks, but we could not let the amazingness that was the Tab times Goose tour go past and not have a discussion about it. And so I'm so excited to introduce to you my co-hosts and contributors on the show. First up is Alexius. Please introduce yourself to the entire audience.
Hi, I am Alexius Lipot, and I'm from Mount Airy, North Carolina. I'm a little town actually called Mayberry that people know it from, and I'm actually from the bluegrass capital of the United States. So that's where I got a lot of my music and knowledge. Is my dad playing banjo. I played piano for years. And so I just love music, and I'm excited about being on this show and, expressing my view and where I come from and just the different things with all you different ladies.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alexius. I'm going to turn it over to Hannah. Hannah, introduce yourself.
Hey, Hannah Liebreich here, and I've been a Goose fan for a little over a year now. I live in South Carolina, but I'm originally from Ohio. And I grew up listening to the Grateful Dead, Bob Dylan, the Beatles, because my parents, but mostly my dad's OG Deadhead. And I'm just happy to be a part of this amazing community. So thank you all for listening and letting me be a part of this.
Awesome. And last but for sure not least, we have Chelsea. Chelsea, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea Long. I started getting into Goose in 2020 when we were all locked inside, and I started kind of having a spiritual awakening, and their live streams gave me my live show music fix I needed. So ever since then, I've just been diving deeper into the Goose community. I'm really excited to make new friends and share our love and appreciation for Goose with everyone out there.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. I am a Brooklyn-born organizer. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina now, and I'm an avid podcaster. My most recent previous show was called Blackberry Jams and was about the intersection of the band Fish and Black liberation. And I have been a jam band fan for 20 plus years. I think I saw my 51st Fish show this year in Charleston. And I've been a Goose fan. Actually, my co-host on Blackberry Jam, shout out to Lenny Duncan, introduced me to Goose. We were actually out seeing Fish and we're in the car and this Goose song came on. I'm like, who the fuck is this? We can swear just so y'all know if you are into it.
I did have that question actually.
We can swear. I was like, who the fuck is this? And he's like, oh, it's this band Goose. You got to check them out. And so they happened to be playing Charlotte like a month later. So Lenny flew out and we went to the show together. And I literally think you can even find a tweet. It's me at the show and I'm like, okay, I'm sold. That's it. Like I'm locked in. And so since then I've been on a rip roaring crisscross of this country, seeing Goose as much as I can. And also just really excited to be, I was brought into the Fish community as like my husband's girlfriend. He had been a Fish fan longer than me. And so I was sort of a tag along in that community. And so it's been really great being a part of this Goose community where I'm myself and I'm just here as me. And so that's been really different and really exciting and really fun for me. And that's sort of why I came up with this idea to bring a bunch of us together to start this podcast. Because one, podcasts, especially about jam bands, are so male dominated. And what I've been experiencing in the Goose community is that women are the biggest, most vocal. We're the folks up front. We're the folks talking about the band. We're the folks, evangelizing all of our friends, families, and acquaintances about Goose. And so I wanted to make sure that we made space in the podcast space for us to have these kinds of conversations. And we're going to get into a lot of this in the main season. But today we're going to just talk about the Tab and Goose collaboration tour. They just went on this amazing 8-show run. And so our one of the things we're going to do is kind of demystify some of the Goose lingo. And so TABoose is the first kind of Goose community lingo that we're going to pull out. So Alexius, what does TABoose mean?
Okay, so TABoose is Tab for Trey Anastasio band, and then Goose. So we kind of put things together. So that's TABoose, and so very exciting. Two of my favorite bands. And so I think it came, there are many different things that were coming about and trying to get a name on there in the community. And TABoose, TABoose is the one that stuck. And I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. There were quite a few other names that were out there, but then Trey said TABoose the first night, and it was like, well, that's it. I mean, he said it, so that's the end of it.
I think that's been awesome that they've been, they've very much been listening to what's going on in the community, and, him even knowing, that it was TABoose, and, just be like, yeah, I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Chelsea and Hannah, what did y'all think when the tour was announced? I feel like my head exploded. I don't know about y'all, but I literally was like, is this real? I just couldn't believe it. It seemed like a fever dream come true. So I'm curious what y'all thought when the video went up, the 70s, chocolate peanut butter video went up and the big announcement came out. Chelsea?
Well, I would say not having been a huge Fish fan, I think my experience with that was a little different, but I knew it was a huge moment for the guys just in and of itself. And the way that they just announced it was just so fun and just like made you feel happy, just like, oh my God, I love this. But also with Radio City Music Hall, just that I just live streamed that when it happened and Trey came out and it was just like magical. Even as someone who hasn't followed Trey, I would say it was just like, you knew it was something special. So super excited when I saw the announcement.
Mm-hmm. Hannah, how about you?
Well, I just was basically like, YOLO, I'm going to go to Radio City Music Hall. Like, I used miles. I stayed with a friend. It was the cheapest, I think, ever for me, seeing Goose. And so I guess because I was there for Trey's sit-in, and I was pretty close too, it wasn't as surprising for me, but it feels like magic. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, that this is all happening for them. It feels like magic. And I'm happy to try and be along on the ride as much as I can. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the great thing about Goose is they've been taking us all along the ride, right? That's such a big thing with them, and I love it.
Yeah. Side note about the TABoose. It always reminds me of the word caboose. Like on a train, right? Yeah. And it's like we're all just riding this train. We're just like on the TABoose of the train.
I love it.
Every time I think about that.
I had a whole mix of emotions when they announced the TABoose tour. It was, we're in the middle of Colorado. We're just spending a fortune going out there. And then, I'm so excited too, because Tab is my first love of jam bands. And so, when I was at Radio City Music Hall, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be such a dream. This is going to be awesome. And then, we're out in Colorado and just had spent so much money and stuff. And then they're like, oh, we're going to do this tour, Tab and Goose. And I was like, they always do this to us. We're in the middle of just having so much fun, spending all this money. And then it's like, bam, here comes the tour. But of course, I'm like overly excited. The video was so rad. I was just like, this is awesome. Yeah. I mean, everything, but it was that honest mix of emotions, just like, oh, this is so cool. This is such a dream come true. And then, at that point, you're on your trip and you are, you're like, okay, now I've got to figure out logistics. Like, how are we going to do this? And you start immediately saving money on your tour on this. You're like, okay, I can't be spending that much. So now I am learning, like, don't spend that much money, because as soon as we're on like an awesome tour, they're gonna announce something else. So just save your money and trying to become more pro about this and an amateur, because I think we're all growing. They're growing at such an exponential rate that we're all growing and learning together. It may be in different ways, but that's definitely something that that we're having to learn of how the tickets are being released and stuff. I mean, not a guarantee, but that's just what I've learned so far.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Also funny, 3 of the 4 of us were at Radio City Music Hall, which is really amazing. None of us knew each other at the time, but we were all there, which is great to have, it's the beauty of, music communities that you have shared experiences, even when you don't know you did. And so that's very exciting. Other next question is like, so first impressions, but what were expectations for the tour? Like, what did you think was going to happen? Were there any expectations, or were you kind of going into it? I don't go into shows with a lot of expectations. It's just the fish fan in me. Whatever the boys decide to throw up, I'm excited by. But I will say for myself, I was excited to see collaboration, especially having witnessed Radio City. It was so special, so magical. And you could see, especially between Rick and Trey, something really dynamic was happening. And so for me, I was just like, whoa, we're going to get to see that over 8 shows. Like, this is really exciting to see these two masters and an elder statesman in this scene, you know, taking someone like that under their wing and really connecting with them and connecting with these younger artists was really exciting to me. So I was just goosed for all of the potential of the collaborations, and also seeing the thing I've noticed about Goose over this year of seeing them so much live is like, every show they get better. Like watching Rick's actual, playing develop over this year is just mind blowing. You know, skills he's picked up and different ways that he's using his instrument, both his voice and the guitar. So I was just excited to see what it sounded like night 1 versus, night 8, because I knew we were going to see progression and things kind of come together. Hannah, let's start with you. What were your expectations? What were you hoping for?
I second what you say about going into shows with no expectations, because if you don't have expectations, then the sky's the limit, and, the most magical, amazing things can happen. But also, like you said, just seeing that evolution and knowing the chemistry that Rick and Trey already had from Radio City Music Hall, I think, I was looking to see how Trey would influence their playing. And I think one thing that I was sort of hoping for, but I didn't know if it was going to happen, was like a new song that was influenced by the fish sound. And we got that. So I think we'll talk more about that later on. But that was just, seeing that influence in real time is just, you can't beat it.
Absolutely. Chelsea, how about you? What were you thinking, as they were heading into the tour?
I just was hoping that, like you said, the guys would just be learning along the way, because it's such a huge experience for them and an opportunity. So, and they did, like you said, we kind of just watched that all unfold. So that was cool. But not many people get to do things like that, of just playing with your mentor or, someone you looked up to and spending all that time with them on the road even. That I just was hoping that they would gain something from it, I guess. But as far as like show expectations, I think we're all kind of the same on that. Like, I can never have expectations because they're just going to blow you away anyway. So
every time, and surprises too, which we're going to get into. Alexius, how about you? Expectations for the tour? What were you looking forward to?
Just like you said, I don't really have expectations on. I learned at the beginning that you can come out if you just, what song's going to happen? What song's going to happen? And, how do you think it's going to happen? And so I just think it's beautiful to go in and see how it's going to come out. But definitely knowing some of the guys and working with some of the guys on other things and being friends with them, I was very excited because I knew that they were going to learn so much. And so I was just beyond excited for them that they were going to learn so much. And so I didn't even get in contact with some of them. Like, I just kind of wave I was in contact with one of them, but, the other ones, I just knew that they were learning so much that it was, I just thought that was beautiful. I think it's beautiful that, that Trey took them under his wing and was just like, here, let me help teach you about this industry, because it's a monster of an industry and it's hard, and they're just learning along the way, and I think that's awesome. So that's just what I was expecting, was just them to learn so much, and for us to be a part of it was such a beautiful thing that we were able to witness that and to see on stage Rick and Trey, just like Rick, learning off of Trey on stage, and then also like Trey being so humble that, you know, Rick doing certain things and he's like, oh man, you know, like grabbing his head, just like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And so it was a beautiful thing because it wasn't like, oh, let me show these fans, you know, who I am. Let me, you know, remind them of who I am, because we did have some fans like, you know, like the clashes of heads where, you know, people didn't want to let go of their band and stuff. And it's, you know, it's just like, it's okay. We're all here. We're loving, you know. And so it was a beautiful thing for Trey to also try to bring, you know, the jam band world together, and like, we're all here for love and peace. So it was all a beautiful thing. And that was kind of my interpretation of what was going to happen. And so it was beautiful of watching it happen.
I love it. Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, I said I was excited for collaboration. I love Tab is such a talented group of artists, generally speaking. Go ahead, Hannah.
So one thing that when we were all talking about the learning experience the guys went through, I just was thinking about the level of vulnerability to be learning from a mentor on stage in front of this huge audience. And I think that's something extra special about this experience that I hadn't really processed until we were all sitting here.
Yeah, and I think that's such a hallmark of Goose generally. I mean, they're so experimental. They always do something different. I remember if you listen to the Dylan Night 1 show from this year, Rick had just started, you know, doing I call it DJ Rick, where he uses the actual pedals and does a whole solo without, like, he loads the riffs in and then starts to play. And you could see him fiddling with it. By this tour, it was like, you know, he spent 5 minutes setting everything up and then go into a rip-roaring solo just doing that. And so we've been able to watch them like develop skills along the way. And so it's been really great to kind of see that. And yeah, you're right, Hannah. They are vulnerable. They're not afraid to pull out a new song they wrote 2 freaking days ago, right? To gift us with, which is not usual. Bands don't do that. And so that's another thing that's super exciting about Goose and being here at this particular time in their evolution, which is so exciting. So many exciting things have happened this year for them. And it's just been great to be witness to it, to be part of it. And, you know, the community that they've built, which is why we wanted to do this show, is so unique and so specific to the energy that they bring to their work and to the stage. And so we're a reflection of what they've brought out there. So let's get into these shows a little bit. As we said, there were 8 shows, all in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. They kicked things off in Portland, Maine. I would just tell a really quick story. I was in Portland, Maine, and we were in line early to try and get on the rail per usual. And these 2 guys were behind me. And they didn't know I was listening to them, but they were just having a conversation about Goose and how many shows they've been to and so on. And so then I hear one of them go, yeah, you know, this community takes safety really seriously. You know, you can't be just like dancing up on girls and like touching people at Goose shows. They really don't stand for that. And the other guy goes, yeah, man, consent. It's important. And I jumped and I was just kind of like, wow. To hear this organic conversation between 2 men, there was no woman that was listening to them. They were trying to impress. They literally were just making a comment about what they noticed in the Goose community and what the expectation was. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, I've been a Fish fan for a very long time. I've been to a lot of Fish shows, Fish festivals. I've done it all. And I never am on the floor for a Fish show because it's not safe. And I'm just going to be very like frank about it and be very direct. It never felt safe for me, even back in the 90s when I first started going to Fish shows, and it continued to not feel safe for me. So coming into the Goose community where you look at the rail and it's 60% women, it's a very, very different feeling, a very different atmosphere. And it's so wonderful. So that's my little story from Portland. Did anybody else have anything to share about the Portland show? We're not going to be really boring y'all and like do song by song breakdowns. It's just not our style. So don't expect that on the show. We're only going to talk about the things that matter to us and what we think are substantive, things that the community wants to hear about. So just to give y'all a little insight into how we're mapping out the show itself. So yeah, anything else around Portland that y'all wanted to mention or anything that was really stood out for you from that? For me, it was very clear that Tab was not quite, they hadn't been practicing for this tour as much as Goose had. I mean, Goose practices a lot. It's very obvious by their social media that they're always playing together. And so Tab is a group of really seasoned professional musicians that have their own careers separate from Tab. And so when they come together, it's like, it's very tight, but it's also like most of their practice happens while they're on the road versus Goose. It's like, oh, we're practicing all the time. And so that first show, I could see them kind of working out a little bit of the kinks. They stayed pretty, I thought, pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Safe with the collaborations on that first night. Although I did get a kick out of just Trey singing Pancakes, was just funny to me. Like that, of all the things they would pull out, that was really great. And then of course, we got the llama and first tube in the encore, which was great because Goose doesn't play Fish. So it was really cool to hear them all playing some Fish songs. So yeah, moving on, Lowell, Massachusetts was next. And I don't have much to say about Lowell. I was at the show and it was a great show, but I really loved the town. That was really what stood out for me. I had really good food there and everybody was really sweet and nice. And it was just really fun atmosphere there. Anything
I'd say with Lowell, opening with Drive is I'm like a sucker for that. I don't know why. That song, as the first song of the show, always gets me. So I really appreciate that. It's just so dancey. It gets you in a good vibe and just ready to go. And then towards the end of the song, they kind of get deeper, darker, and go into Echo of a Rose. And that to me was just perfect way to start a show, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, that set is pretty tight. It's very, very stellar, like top notch from top to bottom. It was a great, great show. Mohegan Sun, Connecticut. I've never been to a casino as such. I'm not a gambler, so it was it was very overstimulating for me. I will just lay that out there. It was just so much. One of the things that really threw me off is that at the end of the show, they just let all of us out in the middle of the casino. And it was so funny because you could just see all of the people that were at the concert kind of walking around like, where the hell are we? And how do we get to where we need to go? They also at that show did a fan art installation. So they had a fan art space, which was really cool that I got to go through. I bought some really cool stuff and we love fan artists. So it was just really great to have a space where they could all gather and go together. So other thoughts around Mohegan Sun?
I kind of have a funny anecdote. So yesterday I was listening to this set on Nugs on my computer and early in the morning, I like to jumpstart my day and I get to class and I'm, teaching 18-year-old college students. And I open it up because I have to look at their grades. I was doing grade checks with them and like Flow Down starts blaring at like 10:45 in the morning, which is like, they're not morning people. They're choosing 11 a.m. as their first class. So I was like, oh, that's a great way to wake my students up.
Sure is. I love any show that opens with Animal just off the rip. And then that Carini encore on that show was really cool because that was the first time Trevor got to actually play his bass with Tab. The previous night, he had just been like shaking something, a percussion instrument. And so I think Trey even said out loud, the only thing we need is two basses. And then the spotlight went on Trevor. And it was just, for me, my heart just like opened up. I was so happy for Trevor, so happy to see him get his due. And also, Carini's such a fucking rocking song on bass that it was just beautiful. Just the moment itself was so beautiful. I was so happy for him.
It's awesome. That was a great, just seeing that it was a great night, that ending, like it was amazing seeing, just like you said, seeing Trevor just doing his thing and getting, I think it helped them all get confidence. And, and I think that really helped Trevor's growth through the whole thing was amazing. And, just that Mohegan Sun, that whole show was fire. I mean, it was just absolutely, you could tell that they were at home and starting out with Animal, like, what way to get you going, like starting out with Animal was just insane. And it was so fun because I wasn't there at this one. And this is one that I streamed, had a couch tour on. And, so a few people were just like, okay, what is this Goose about? And I was so excited because we had a streaming party at home, the lights and everything. Nice. And it was just like just such a, like, such an amazing show. And, just the way it started out, Animal, into Flow Down, into Arrow, into Hollywood Nights, into Arrow, Drip Field, Fish in the Sea with the horns, the horns, that was amazing. And then Factory Fiction with Trey, Leslie, girl, you got it. That show was insane. I was just so excited for you that you were there. I was excited to bring people on board and show them. And I mean, they were sold, of course, first show, they're not even there. And so they're like, okay, I've got to get tickets, got to do this. I mean, that show was just absolutely amazing. And it was amazing to watch from home. So just the vibe there. And then wasn't it their first show that they had people behind them? Yep. So that was a really big deal. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's a huge deal, especially because they played Mohegan Sun multiple times before this, but never could sell it out to the point they had, people behind them. They lit the folks up behind them. It was really cool and gave them a little shout out during the set. It was really cute. Peter's always so great about, showing love to everybody. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the horns, shout out to Jennifer Hartwick and Natalie Cressman and James Casey for their amazing participation on this tour and TAB generally. But so many of the songs on Dripfield have horns on them that I know for me, I was expecting they'll come out for one of those, but nope, because Goose is Goose. They were like, nah, we're going to do Fish in the Sea. And Peter mentioned they've wanted to do Fish in the Sea with horns forever, which again, just watching them have their dreams come true is so cool. That was my favorite song of the entire run, actually, was that Fish in the Sea. It just was so unique and special and beautiful and wonderful, and also kind of broke the barrier of people other than Trey joining Goose for their set. This was the first night that we had on the tour that the horns came out, or anybody else from TAB came to play with them. So that was really neat. And then, Factory Fiction is rare, period. We just don't get to hear it that often. And then to have Trey on it, forget it. My mind was just I couldn't even believe it. It was so cool and just really neat.
And so I was happy you were there to experience that you could share with all of us, just the beauty of that. It was very exciting that you were there. I just can't tell you how excited I am for you, because just really, it was Fish in the Sea and those horns, and then Factory Fiction. I'm just so excited that you were there, and I can't imagine the actual energy coming from it, because it was just so amazing on just watching it on the screen. And I know after that, you're just how does it get better than this? Really? And honestly, I'm at home, just telling my husband, I'm really? That's, they got all the amazing songs. What are they going to do now? And of course, Goose being Goose, they pull it out, so that was an amazing, I think probably for not being there, one of my favorite nights, one of the top 3 of the favorite nights for sure.
Yeah, it was really great. So now we're at the midpoint of the tour, Glens Falls, New York. A full disclosure, I went to high school about an hour away from Glens Falls. So I was in my home territory, and I got to take 2 very special people with me to their very first Goose show ever. One was my high school volleyball coach. Shout out to you, Mike Riley. And the second is Jay Curley, who's the global head of integrated marketing at Ben and Jerry's, who is one of the sponsors of this amazing podcast. Shout out to you, Curley. And so I was really excited to experience 2, men that I absolutely adore and love at getting to go to their first Goose show. And so it was really, really fun for me to have them there. And Glens Falls, It's very historic for a lot of reasons. Folks who don't know, Trey did his drug court and sentencing in Glens Falls. So he spent a lot of time in the area. And also they premiered a lot of Fish songs at that particular arena. So for Trey, it was a bit of a homecoming. People really know him up there. He's really involved in the community. And he's opening his treatment center in that area as well. So there was a lot of personal stuff going on. And you can hear that when he's talking about it, but it was funny because he starts telling the story, about why he was there. So, for so much time. And the whole room was like, oh, he's talking about drug court. Just like, he's going down memory lane, which is great. I love the transparency. But also it was just really funny to hear him talking about it. That was hilarious.
I think that's awesome though, that he brought it up, because that was one thing, when this all happened, I was like, this is amazing that Trey is coming in to show these young ones like, hey, this is how you kind of navigate, and kind of showing how he's navigated, because it's such a lonely world, because not many people become that famous, and, and then people just act like you're not a human being when you're just a normal human being. You want to go to the store, you want to watch a movie, you want to do these things. And that's something that you give up, when you get to that level. And so it's also something that we've seen over decades of musicians turning to drugs to numb things because they don't know how to get through it. And so that's why I think it's a beautiful thing that Trey has stepped in and like, hey, let me show you guys some things. Let me show you how, and, changing things in the music world to let's help these other ones. Let's help these young ones and to keep this from happening, because we see it presently in the hip hop world and everything. So I think it's a beautiful thing for him to completely step in. And because that was one of my things, I just, I wasn't going to say anything. And then when Trey, said that in Glens Falls, I was just like, this is beautiful. Like, I feel like this is kind of him saying, this is why, that it wasn't him actually saying that, but I feel that was a big reason why he wanted to do this and just change the way that things are done in the music industry. Like, it not be so greedy, like, hey, let's help each other out and share that love and joy, which is a beautiful thing. And that's about that's a lot of the jam band scene, and what we're all about is love and joy and music and helping each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Shout out to the sober folks who go to Goose shows, because I've noticed that they usually have a table at pretty much every show that I've been to. And, we're here for the fan experience. So I just want to say, like, we see you and we appreciate you being at our shows.
Absolutely. Chelsea, anything from Glens Falls? I want to talk about the Redbird for a minute, and then we can talk about Thatch. But that Redbird, first of all, I've been waiting for it. I knew it was going to be coming on, and when Trey sang the second verse, I literally started crying because I just was thinking about, Peter playing that song for his mom for the first time over the phone. And, there's this song that he wrote, and now his hero is singing it, not just playing it. It just was like, I was like, is Trey going to sing? Is he going to sing Redbird? Oh my gosh. I just couldn't even believe it. It was just so magical and so beautiful. And I was so happy for all of them. And Peter's face, it just was pure joy and so great. Go ahead, Chelsea.
I was just going to say the Redbird was the highlight for sure. I actually was listening in the car like the next day or something. And when Trey started singing the second verse, I was just like goosebumps. I was like, you're driving, keep going. Like, could not stop. It was probably not a good time to be listening to that. But yeah, that just was a real big standout for me at that show as well.
Yeah, for sure. And then we had the announcement. Coach had the baby, and they debuted a new song, A Freshie, Thatch, which they played twice on the run. They played it one more time later at a later show. And first of all, I love Fresh Goose songs off the rip. Like, they're always great to hear. I love when we get to see them. Just a little tidbit. This is shout out to my friend Michael, who pointed this out. If you're up front and Rick's guitar is missing at the start of a show, they're practicing something new most of the time. So my friend Michael pointed that out, and I think it was Atlanta, and they debuted, I think All I Need was debuted there. One of the songs, Rick came out and said, it's a freshie. And he said, my friend Michael said, he's like, Rick's guitar's not here. I bet you they have a new song tonight. And I was like, what are you talking about? Sure enough, like 2 minutes before they came on, guitar came back out and we got a new song that night.
Nice.
So I've been really peeking it now. I'm like, is this guitar missing? What's going on up there? But that's, beautiful song. They wrote it 2 days before this premiere, which, who even does that? It's wild.
They're on tour and then they write a song that just shows like how much they were inspired just so quickly in this tour, because that, that's a lot to have the confidence, to write a song, to practice it, to be doing all that they're doing. And then to come out, to have the confidence to come out and to show it not only to their fans, but to Tab fans, which some of these fans were trying 100% not to have it. They were 100% not sold on Goose, I think, and so that was just a lot of confidence and a lot of, just amazingness that it shows how inspired that they were to come out with a 2-day-old song, a little fresh baby. So that was awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. And congratulations to Coach on the new baby.
Yes,
very
congrats, Bonnie and Coach.
Yeah. So then they went to the middle of Pennsylvania. I really mean the middle, because I thought about going to this show and it was a 10-hour drive from New York to get to it. And we just couldn't do it. Also, a terrible snowstorm was in the area. So many people were just stuck on the road, not able to even get into the show for this. What is it? Carnot Moon, Pennsylvania. Again, just I've never been to the venue or anything, but I did just noted those unique things about the show. I think it was interesting. The lowest attendance, I think, was at this show as well. So the smallest of the tour. Anything else anyone wanted to add about that particular show? They were all great, so we can just say that.
That was the Glens Falls one, or
no? Carnot Moon.
Oh, okay,
the fifth one, in Pennsylvania. Okay. The first PA show, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So This Old Sea is one of my favorite Goose songs because for really, really sad reasons, but it reminds me of my mom passing and me and my sister really bonding over Goose and seeing Goose together. And so I guess it being a song that isn't played as much, I wasn't expecting it on this tour, let alone having Trey come out. And just, that song is about, I'm tearing up because this song is about the connection you have with that older generation. And so for Trey to come out and play that song, I was totally not expecting that. And it blew my mind. And I pretty much cry anytime I hear it, but good cry. It just makes me happy because it almost feels like that song is full circle, because here he is playing it with someone from an older generation, or not old, you know what I mean? And being mentored and all that. So, it just, that was, for me, that was the highlight of TABoose tour.
I'm so happy that you got that, Hannah. No one laughs or cries alone. I'm right here with you, crying. That's amazing. That's awesome. I'm happy that you got that, and that kind of helps in the healing mode. Yeah. So I'm glad you got that.
Yeah, it was so beautiful. One thing I'll say that I was really surprised by all the collaborations that they did. It was not, if I had made a list of what I thought they would play together, they went in a whole different direction. It also was very clear that Trey has been listening to a whole lot of fucking Goose because
exactly.
I mean, the way he slotted in on all of these songs, some of which they don't play that often, it was really, really impressive. And it just showed, I was like, oh, he's an actual fan. Like, it's not fake, and it's definitely really appreciative of the music. I know I read an interview he did a while ago, and he was talking about Goose, and he was specifically talking about their songwriting prowess, which, if anybody who's a Fish fan knows, that is not their strong suit. So I think it's one of those things that Trey really is kind of in awe that Rick and Peter are able to write these really amazing songs, and especially their lyrics are so meaningful and so really great. We're going to talk about this in a couple of episodes, but it's, for me, I think it's one of the things that make them so appealing to women is the content that they write and what they talk about and the things that they sing about. So I'm excited to get into that. Next, we have Fairfax. Alexius, you were at the show, so out to us. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Like,
yes.
Show, so I will eternally always feel guilty about these shows, because Radio City Music Hall and Fairfax were like two shows that I was just like, no, we're not going to go to, me and my husband. And last minute, I ended up sending it to both of them, and we got like amazing surprises out of both of them. And it was just amazing. Like the whole Billy Strings coming on, it was just awesome. Like it was already an amazing show. And I noticed, like, I was like, there's an acoustic guitar on stage, and there's not usually an acoustic guitar. And, there are always a lot of rumors that are coming out of shows of, of what's happening, and a lot of things that are photoshopped. So I never believe what's going on, what's going on in El Goose and different things, because, they're right like 20% of the time. Right. And then, the rest of the time it's just like getting people amped up for things. So, and that's the one thing, I don't want to disappoint myself. So, so I was totally not believing the rumors. And then, there being a rail rider, they haven't done sound check yet. And I was out there pretty early, and all of a sudden, like, I'm walking back to the car, and they did it to where you couldn't hear it from everywhere. And so I was just walking back to the car at that moment to take some things. And it was a late sound check. It was like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and doors opened at 6. And so they and I hear it's like a Billy Strings song, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are we really getting this? Are we really getting this? And so just the show was amazing. Like everything that they were playing was awesome. And then here comes Billy Strings on stage, and it was just like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And so the crowd just goes crazy. And then not only did Billy Strings come on through Tab, but through like the Goose, they play Thatch Again, which I thought that I was going to have to be chasing forever. And I was so excited that I got Thatch on this one. And and then Trey comes out for Hunger Sight and Tumble, and I heard him play Hunger Sight in Radio City Music Hall. And then it was just cool to hear him play it again, and just like the difference, because in Radio City Music Hall, he was a fan, but just over that amount of time, like how much that he had learned it, and how much better, it was amazing. And and then closing with Tumble, and then and then when Billy Strings comes out and plays with Tab, and then, then they bring Rick out, and it was just really cool because they each took times that they were playing. And, at first a lot, it was Trey and Tab, and then, Rick comes in and just was ripping it, and it was so awesome. And just to see Billy's eyes, like when you watch Billy, like he always gets like big eyes when he's like, wow, and just his face, and his face and Trey's face just looking back and forth at each other while Ricky's like just tearing it up. And so it was really cool just to see their faces. And I went in, you know, all my other friends were on separate sides, like usually where they set up. And I was like, no, I'm going to get front and center, you know, so I can see everything. And it was super cool just to be on the rail and just to see all of their faces and, you know, and them just playing back and forth. It was a moment that I will never forget, especially so close. So it was insane. The energy was insane. Just everyone, it was amazing. Just definitely a moment that'll go down in history. I think there have been quite a few of those this year. And I feel super blessed to have been at, you know, such an amazing moment and so close. It was amazing for sure.
So for sure, Alexius, you were like witnessing history. That's what I kept thinking. It's one of those things, like you go to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We went this summer before Legend Valley. Anyways, but it's like one of those things you literally see like in the Hall of Fame museum, like the time Billy Strings, Trey, and Rick all were on stage. It's amazing. So that's so cool you were there.
Yeah, and also just goes to show like just how intentional Trey's being about cultivating relationships with these younger artists, you know, younger jam band artists, and that it goes beyond just Goose. Obviously, I mean, he referred to in his posts Billy as one of his good friends, and you know, we all know Billy's story that, you know, he was an addict and music kind of helped him get sober and get his life back on track. And I know that must be such a, you know, touch point for him and Trey as well. And so. But also Billy is very different from Goose. So it was just really great to see these different styles of jam band music coming together, you know, in this really beautiful space. And it was just really great to see it, really fun and just really, really cool.
They are different. And it's so cool to see. Like when I went to Fred Fest, which was the second and third time that I ever saw Goose, because I saw him at Floyd Fest the first time and met all of them, lucked up, got to meet them all, get signatures on albums and everything. And Peter's like, you're going to Fred Fest, right? And I'm like, I don't know. And by the end of the night, he's like, you're going, right? I'm like, yes, I'm getting my tickets. I'm going. Okay. So I just lucked up, right place, right time. And so that was like the second and third time that I lost train of thought right there of what we were talking about. Just excited about the, what were we saying?
Talking about just like all these different types of music coming together and playing together. Yeah.
Right. And so I just, our neighbor was a huge Billy Strings fan, and he's actually known as the Crystal Ball Guy and the Crystal Ball Guy. He's from Charlotte. And so every they follow him all over, and they always do his head in this like disco ball. And so Billy actually stopped one of the shows and like, you know, called him out and stuff, and was like signed his head, done like a lot of things. But it was really funny, you know, just to have like the different genres and how everyone's, you know, going together and, you know, just sharing this together. So it's cool to see them all come out on stage and like just bringing together instead of the division and that's going on in the world right now. Like, hey, let's use our music for good and let's bring all of this together. Let's not divide us. Let's bring it together. And so I think that's been a beautiful thing that I don't even think if they realized that they were doing it, but it has ended up being that way.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So we're heading to the last two shows of the tour, Syracuse, another snowy show from my understanding, and another great show. I watched that one from home. It was really fun to watch, and seeing Trey play Animal was really cool. Just saying. It's one of my favorites. So it's just, again, it was one of those things where we didn't know what they were going to have him play. And again, it's just like they did not have him play like staples. He didn't play Born or Acadia or even Hunger Strike. He played, you know, so many of these staple Goose tunes that, you know, he brought his own special sauce to. And I remember when they were playing this, that I think I saw Trey mouth like, holy fuck, when Rick was doing his solo. And it was just so great to see, like, he's being surprised on stage by this younger musician. And I also felt like the encore was, the whole ensemble was really gelling at this point. It was really beautiful. Such a crescendo of amazing musicians coming together and playing together. So that was really cool.
And this was the same day they dropped their Undecided EP, yes, I believe.
That's exactly right.
So on the set list or on like Nugs and whatever, it's the first time Bob Don is called Undecided, which was super exciting. So I think that was kind of cool. I mean, no one was expecting that. It just
definitely not.
That day they're like, here's 4 songs.
4 songs. Have at it. Huzzah. Yeah, very cool.
That night, the starter Slow Ready was, that was sick. So it was really good.
And can we also talk, Goose repeated so few songs on this 8 run. I was really like, wow. Now, this isn't a, not knock on Tab. They're just a different band. They aren't a jam band, right? They're, very like polished. When you see them on stage, they have sheet music up there with them so that they know what they're doing. It's very different kind of music. So I wasn't expecting them to not have a lot of repeats. They have a stage show that they do and a staple of songs. But Goose was like, yeah, fuck all that. We're going to do us. And you're going to hear all these freaking songs, especially because this was such a big new audience, getting to see them for the first time. And so they really took advantage of that. And I loved that we didn't hear so many repeats. And even the repeats we heard, most of them were one with Trey and one without, for the most part, besides like Arrow. We heard quite a bit of Arrow, but I was just really impressed just seeing them showcase so much of their music over this 8-show run that if you just watch these, you'd be like, wow, this band is incredible. And they have a lot of dope music, under their belts already, not to mention what they'll be putting out in the future. So that was really cool.
That makes me wonder if they kind of planned it out more, because I know in the interview on goosecommunity.com with Rick, he talked about how they do the set list like at 6 p.m. that night, like right before they go on stage. They're just like, let's do this and that. So the fact that, like you're saying, it was almost like intentional that they made sure to play a ton of different songs. So I kind of wonder how that process went, if it was different for this tour.
Yeah, like did they have like a big board that they were making for which ones they wanted to hit? I wonder. That is interesting to contemplate. And now we have come to the end of the run in Reading, Pennsylvania. Alexius and I were both at this show together, which was amazing. Not our first show together. We also were in New Orleans together earlier this year, but our husbands. So this is this funny story. So we had already like predetermined we really wanted to be on the rail and be front and center together to see the tour end. And so of course we're like, okay, plotting, how are we going to do this? Now, mind you, Alexius was coming from Fairfax to Reading. My husband and I were flying and we flew in the night before. We used to live in Philly, so we did some stuff in Philly and then drove out to Reading. And my husband was like, we're getting on the rail. I don't care. I'm going to be the first person out there. Our hotel room was directly across the street from the venue. You could see the venue, like on our window. You open it up, the venue's right there. So the night before, he had like talked to a security guard to ask like where are the lines going to be and got like the lowdown and everything. So he's like, stay in bed as long as you want. I'm going to get up, get, bundled up because it was cold and go out there. And I was like, cool, sounds great. So he got up at like 7:30 in the morning. He looks outside. He's like, nobody's out. I'm going to take my time getting dressed. And then he swings open the curtain as he's getting dressed. He goes, God damn it. Somebody's out there. I got to get out there right now. And he grabs all of his shit and he runs down there. And then he texts me and he goes, oh, it's Alexius's husband, Jason. We're good. And so they sent this cute picture to us, just like them smiling, all bundled up at the front of the line, the first 2 people in the line for us. And we love them. So shout out to Joe and
Goose
Jason.
Chicks husband.
Yes, for being so great.
Goose Chicks Podcast husbands for the win, 100% on that. So we were able to get like right there on the rail in the middle. That was really awesome. It was so funny, like as I'm getting updates, because I'm, riding there with a friend, and that was the closest experience I'll ever get to hitchhiking, because I, with my epilepsy, I'm not able to drive. And so I had to like find friends that were going to different places. And so I'm like, catching rides with different friends. It was a lot of fun. And so I wanted to be there a whole lot earlier than I got there. So I told Jason, I was like, just go ahead, just get there, just save our spots. And so it was awesome that they were there and able to save our spots. But the funniest story, like getting those updates and stuff, and, and it was awesome. So it was a day that they were able to bond and have fun, and, it was good times and really cold. They were probably probably frozen, possibly about to lose a few toes by the end of the night. But
yeah, and then there was like a bunch of other random stuff that happened. There was a whole Christmas parade that went by the venue for like 3 hours while we were in line. People started setting up chairs like across the street in the sun, and we were like, who are those people? What's going on? And then we start seeing the streets being blocked off, and we're like, what is happening? And then slowly we start to see, oh, it's a whole Christmas parade in Reading. And so all of the things, marching bands, drill teams, Santas, Grinches, you name it, they had it. They were throwing candy at us. It was just because the line had grown by the time that the parade started, but it was a little surreal. Like, we're in this line, like all bundled up, and then there's like a Christmas parade going by. It was just really, really funny and really
fun. Making the last show, like taking every part of it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think that a parade expected quite the crowd that they had. I'll say that. It was definitely a little larger than they were expecting, but it was really hilarious. And people were like, what are you guys here for? You here for tickets? Like, no, we're in line for the show. When's the show? We're like, tonight. They're like, okay, all right. Here's some candy. You guys need some fortification for sure. So yeah, it was really funny and really great, and an amazing end to the tour as well. Just beautiful, sad, it was just so fun. It was just so fun. That's what I remember. It was just a lot of fun, and everybody was having so much fun on stage. And that Flow Down opener was ridiculous. I always love when they open up with Flow Down. So the Flow opener is always great. And then, it just was really fun. And of course, we had the amazing torch moment. Alexius, why don't you talk about that for a minute?
Oh yes. So that was so awesome. Noah Ray, one of my good friends, he comes up and so it's been going on for a while, like, and Trey, it's a story that's been going on and on and on, like, the fish fans and don't like some of the Goose, not all of them. It's just like a little bit. And so we're just like, the torch will be passed one day, the torch will be passed. And so the last night at Reading, Noah brings we have 15 torches total, and he blows all of them up and stuff. And so when Trey comes out on stage, we hold up our torches and everything. And this just shows how much that they connect, that the band is paying attention. And so the last song, there are our party time.
Yeah,
was that it? Party time. Yep. And so, so that all of the bands in there, and they're all, going around. And so Noah hands up to Trey one of the torches. And so Trey reaches down, gets it, and then he has it, and then he takes it and he throws it back. And so he's trying to throw it to one of the Goose band members, and Rick misses it. And then I think Pete gets it and stuff. And so but just to see their faces, Ben's face of pure joy, it reminded me of us, when we get a set list or something from them, or we get just oh my gosh, just the little fangirls that also of course would come. I think it all came out of us at the time, tears of happiness and just everything, and him tossing back the torch, and and so each one of the band members takes it, and so Trevor's holding it as he's going off and stuff, and just their smiles on their faces, and it was so awesome and so hilarious too, just to see it, and just what a way to end the tour, the actual torch being passed. It was just awesome. And
it was brilliant on Noah's part to have the props. And he was so specific. He's like, don't put them up until Trey comes out.
Exactly.
We had direct instructions on when to put them up. And so it was really, loosely coordinated, but we all followed our instructions very, very.
We knew if one day of the night we didn't know, we knew when those torches were supposed to come out. And if they came out just a little bit higher, I mean, they weren't even above the waist, but Noah would look over and be like, no, put it down. So it was awesome, and just just the perfect way. Thank you, Noah Ray, for for getting those torches and making sure that if this making sure that happened. Just awesome. Like what amazing energy to end the tour, and, you know, just exciting to go on to the next thing, and them having a little bit of a break, and then us going into Goosemas, and then, you know, New Year's. And so it's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Hannah, Chelsea, about Reading?
Well, you know, the LMAG. Obviously, I've been chasing LMAG, and I still haven't gotten it. And so anytime there's an LMAG, I'm so happy, but so sad that I wasn't there.
My husband, that's one of his faves. He was so excited to hear it. And it was really great.
It was amazing.
So good. Mm-hmm. Hannah, anything from you about this, the closing?
No, I think it's all been well said, but I just love hearing, as someone who was, you know, not able to make any of the TABoose shows, it's just so amazing hearing your stories. So thank you for sharing.
No problem. Okay. We've gone through our favorite things about each of the shows, which is great. I want to kind of turn the conversation a little bit to like, what do we notice over the run about the interactions between the band members, and like, how did that evolve? For me, it was interesting because I was at the first and the last show, and I noted that it seemed a little bit route. It was a little bit like, no, you go, no, I go, no, you go, especially between Rick and Trey in Glens Falls. By the time we got to Reading, they were playing together simultaneously, which they hadn't been doing through the whole run. And so it was just really beautiful to see these two extremely talented musicians learn how to play with each other in real time and like watch the magic happen. It was just really beautiful. And I was really in awe of I was just really in awe of all of it. When they were doing Rockdale, I just remember being like, wow, this is super special. And Trey was so happy on this tour. I've seen Trey so much. And, you know, I just can say that this was a different Trey on this tour. I saw Fish this summer, and we did the 4-night run in New York City in April as well. And it was amazing. I mean, historic. Talk about, you know, once in a lifetime experiences. They turned Madison Square Garden into an aquarium for us to celebrate. It was really amazing. And this was so different. It was so personal. It was so clear. Trey was having so much fun. I have so many pictures of him where his feet are literally off the ground. He was jumping so much, y'all. He was so excited, so happy, so into it, so invigorated. And you could hear, he said several times from the mic, just like, we thought it was going to be great. This has been so much better than we even imagined that it would be. And so it just speaks to how, what a great idea the tour was, one, and two, just that, you know, the beauty of live music is you never know what's going to happen until it unfolds. And so it was really great to even see them caught off guard by how magical it all was. And that was really great to see too.
Yeah, I think you really could just like feel the gratitude from everyone. And I know Peter is so good about at shows of like thanking the crew and thanking the fans and thanking everyone, you know, thanking Trey at this tour. But like just the gratitude of all of them, that they were really like knew it was special. Yeah. And knew that they needed to like take advantage of that and be present and be there. And you could just really feel that in the camaraderie even of just like, we're friends hanging out, making music. It's like goes back to your garage, you're jamming out, you know, sort of thing. So it was just, I think that you could just feel how grateful they all were to be there.
Yeah, it was really cool. The first Carini, my husband noticed this, but I didn't. But Des tried to get Trevor to kind of dance with him. And Trevor was like, no. And so that was really funny to see and very, very cute. Because Des dances a lot when he's playing. He just like, it's very movie. You know, Trevor, if you get a foot stomp, you're lucky. So
yes. He has gotten better with the head bobs.
That's what I was
He's come a long way.
Thank you to Des, because he taught him so much in this tour. It's so cool to see how each musician and how they learned off of, you know, the other musician and the other band. And, you know, definitely like Trev was, you know, by the end, he was like moving it. And I was just like, oh, look at that. Yeah, Trev, get it. And he was definitely moving, definitely getting that. I think that in the future that we will definitely get some more Groove and Trev. And, you know, that's all they need. Can you imagine like how fast that they've grown and just how it's got to be terrifying. It's got to be, I mean, just at the beginning of this show, introducing myself, I was terrified. And, you know, and so it's got to be terrifying for them to just as quickly as they've grown and just to be able to move and get that comfort on stage. And I think that they're starting to get there. And I think that this tour really helped, you know, make that go a lot faster, that they learned. And because I definitely saw the difference between each one of them and how much they grew. And Trevor was definitely one. He was definitely moving and grooving by the end, and, you know, and smiling. Like we saw him smiling a lot. And usually it's the mysterious, mystical Trev that we have no idea what's going on in his mind and his thoughts. And, you know, and by the end of this, like we could see how happy he was and how grateful that he was, you know. And so it was very awesome to see how much each one of them learned and how much, and just the interactions in the Tab band, you know, that they had, and then coming out and all of them together. It's really cool. It's been a special thing to watch. And I'm sure for you to be there as many shows as you were this time, Leslie, you know, that's super awesome. So.
Yeah, it was really fun. And yeah, everything you said was so true. I think the only other time I've seen Trevor more animated was when Big Boy came out in Austin. And my husband actually said something to him. He's like, I see you, Trevor. Because he was dancing. Like, I mean, there's a lot of bass in that song. And so he got to really play it. And he smiled at my husband, was like, yeah, okay, I'm really. So it was very cute. But yeah, it was really beautiful. I mean, even, you know, Peter coming out to play with Ray, beautiful. Just like you could just see each of them kind of matching up with their counterparts in Tab, and that there was some really special magic happening musically and then personally, just like being professional musicians. I said, Tab is like everybody on that stage has like decades of experience under their belt. They have released music with so many amazing people. And so this was just a wealth. I mean, it's like basically walking into like a musical jam band encyclopedia and like soaking it all up for an entire run. I just can't imagine a better gift for Goose at this stage of their evolution and career to have this amazing opportunity. And also it's very clear to me, I think they'll do it again because obviously it was very successful for them. And obviously they sold the whole freaking tour out. So obviously it was very popular. And a lot of people in other parts of the country are like, hey, hi, come over here, you know, kind of thing. So I think I'm interested to see if they continue doing more of it. What do we want to see more of? What were we hoping for that we didn't get to see? I know, Hannah, you had something to say about that.
Oh, well, so I was just saying that I noticed there was no Grateful Dead covers during this tour. And so I was like, oh man, that would have been cool. Also, I have to say this, since, you know, 3/4 of us live in the Carolinas, like the next TABoose tour, if they could just be in the Carolinas, that like, I'll take North Carolina. I'm not far from North Carolina. So I would say that. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, like, I would never be disappointed or anything like that, because like, yeah, you can't be, right? So, but yeah, I was surprised that there wasn't any Grateful Dead covers, but we were sort of in different chats together talking about how sort of that legacy of like the Grateful Dead and then Fish and now Goose, and how Fish and Trey, they weren't really mentored by members of the Grateful Dead. And so I don't know if that had something to do with it or what. But, you know, I don't know. For me, that's just like, you know, when Goose covers a Grateful Dead song, I'm like sending it to my dad, like, Dad, listen to this cover, like, whatever. And so that's something really special for me, I guess, is why it excites me so much. Is that's one of the things that really bonds me with my dad, is our love of music and like specifically the jam band genre. So I always get excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. I was just excited to see Goose playing so many Fish songs, because they don't as a rule. And so it was just really amazing to see. Most of the Tab versions of Fish songs I prefer anyways. And so that was just an extra like gift to see Goose playing these songs, which I know they're so, you know, already steeped in Fish. They're all huge Fish fans and huge Trey fans, you know, individually and collectively. And then also there was just cool things that they saw, like they went to Jim Pollock's studio while they were out on the road, and Jim gave Peter like a signed print from the 5th Fish show that Peter ever went to. Naveed got to go as well, which I was just like, that was just really cool for him to see, like this, historic, person who does work that he does in terms of merch and things like that. And that was really neat to see. So I was just excited just to see all the interactions they were all having off stage as well as on stage. I was low-key stalking all of them. And we've touched on this a little bit, but it was really beautiful to see Trey, really being so intentional in forging these, direct relationships with younger artists. And I'm really excited to see what comes of that. I think it invigorated him, and obviously it invigorated the younger musicians as well. So I'm excited for whatever comes next and whatever comes out of this. I mean, it should be said, Trey has released 0 of the sets that Tab did on this tour. So the only things we've gotten to see outside, unless you bought the stream, have been Goose sets. And so I'm wondering if there's a movie or a documentary behind the scenes kind of vibe to it. I could see that being really a cool thing to put out eventually. So that's what I'm hopeful for, that we'll get to see some of the, background stuff at how this came together. This 73-person crew that took this tour all over the Northeast. I mean, it really, really was impressive to see the entire machinery of everything working together. And I was really impressed that they pulled it off. Generally, it was just really great. Go ahead, Hannah.
One thing that I'm excited to look forward to is not only how the musicians are connecting musically as friends, but how the communities are connecting, because we were seeing a little bit of riffing between certain fan groups, and especially with Billy Strings coming out, I hope we can put that to rest and just, enjoy the music. And also, there is this legacy of like, the old school guys who saw the Dead in the 60s and the 70s, like my dad, who are still going to shows. And so making our community more holistic, I think that's really exciting, and sort of maybe dropping some of that elitism that we see sometimes, or, you were talking about not feeling safe in the Fish pits, like bringing some of that consent culture that exists in the Goose community and really is reflective in Goose, the members of Goose. Like, you'll hear Peter say groove safe and stuff like that. Bringing that into these other jam band scenes and connecting on that level. I think I would love to see more of that. And I think it's pretty safe to say we will be seeing more of that. And that's something maybe we weren't expecting. That is just a really beautiful aspect of this community.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to so many people at these shows that this was their first time seeing Goose, which that's my favorite thing is I brought my brother-in-law to Atlanta for his first Goose show. So for me, that was really cool. Just talking with people like, oh, how many, have you been to see Goose before? No, it's my first time. And then like at some point during the show when they were really rocking, looking over and seeing their eyes just like, holy crap, this band is really, really amazing.
Spreading the gospel in the best way.
Just like, wow.
Watching their eyes just go, oh,
And some of them would even come up to me after and be like, oh, you weren't kidding. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like at set break, they just be like, wow. I'm like, yeah, they're really special, and so excited to have them see them. And Jay Curley even like after the show at Glens Falls, he was like, all right, I'm sold. Like that's it. Like, it didn't take much, but also like that was amazing. They're really great. So that was really great to see so many new people exposed to Goose and learning about Goose, and from that place where I feel like they may have been a little more and this is, to credit Trey, this is what he did. And even doing this tour and performing with them and talking about them is like giving permission for his fans, for Fish fans to like another group because he's kind of saying, this is something I like, so you should like it too. And I love that. So I'm really
That was actually something that I had an interaction, and I was going to get some water and it was in Fairfax. And so this guy, he was, he was a Fish fan, had been Fish fan for years. He had to have been in his 50s. And this younger guy, didn't say anything, was just wearing a Goose shirt. And, and this guy turns around and just starts, laying into the younger kid. And I mean, he wasn't even 21. He couldn't even buy alcohol yet. And so, me, like if I feel like someone is, I'm just like, hey, listen, we're all here for music and to love the bands. And I was like, I get it. I was like, you absolutely love Fish. You've been on the road with them for years, and Tab, and, and I was like, but the thing is Trey's spoken. He said that he likes Goose, and this is kind of his way of saying, hey, all of my fans, listen, let's all come together. Let's all love music together and share that peace and that joy and that community and that jam band scene, that has passed for years, from Grateful Dead to Fish, to other jam bands, and now to Goose. And so I think that that's been a really cool thing, and just, letting the guy know, like, hey, it's been spoken, like, Trey likes Goose. It's okay for you to like Goose. You don't have to defend anymore. You don't have to defend your guru anymore. He likes them also. So I think that's been a cool thing that's come out of the tour also. I think that a lot of people have seen that it's okay. And then when they saw Goose, they're like, oh, okay, I see why why he likes them. They're good.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I hope you all enjoyed our little recap of the TABoose tour. Obviously, as you could tell, we all enjoyed it immensely and it was really fun. Can't wait to see what happens next with some of these collaborations. I mean, imagine a Tab and Goose album. Who knows what we'll get? You never know. But to end here, we wanted to just give y'all a little preview, since this is sort of a one-off episode. We just couldn't let the tour go without talking about it. But we are going to be coming back to you in a couple weeks with our actual first episode. And so what can folks expect from Goose Chicks Podcast? Chelsea, let's start with you. What do you think folks should be looking for from us?
Well, for me, I'm really excited to talk about just the spiritual connection and creative connections in Goose's music. I make tie-dye, and a lot of that, the reason I'm into that, and that's what I do for a living now, is because of Goose. And so getting deeper in those song connections and that spiritual connection with Goose is what I'm really excited about.
Love it. Really excited again. And especially the lyrical content is so stellar. Exactly. We're going to have some great discussions. Hannah, how about you? What should people expect from Goose Chicks Podcast?
Well, I guess for me, I wanted to be involved because I was seeing how unique the experience of girls and women was at Goose shows. And professionally, I do a lot of work on that and on consent culture. So I'm excited to highlight that LGBTQ plus experience, and to sort of add on to what Chelsea was saying about the lyrics and everything. I've been sort of, in a very data nerdy way, been going through the lyrics and doing some qualitative analysis. So I'm happy to talk about that. I can just share on social media. But yeah, I mean, this is honestly a dream come true for me to be connecting with women who are such badasses and providing this, unique niche experience that we saw was necessary for our community. And also shout out to the Goose Chicks men, because y'all talked about your husbands and how awesome they were. Leslie had a story about the guys discussing consent when no one was listening. One of my dearest friends, Tyler Martin, he's going to be so embarrassed I named him, but he actually got me into Goose. I had been out of the jam band scene in Hawaii for like 7 years, and he was like, girl, you got to listen to this band. And then that's kind of how I got into it. So I just think we have an awesome, awesome community, and I'm excited to share that.
Oh, I love it. Alexius, what can people expect?
So going off of kind of what Hannah said, the Goose community is absolutely amazing. Yes, we will cover we'll cover shows, we'll cover those things, but also we will cover what is going on in the Goose community. There are a lot of things that we have going on that are, as the band grows, these things are growing. And there is a charity and Western Sun Foundation. There is also a project of the charity, goosecommunity.com. And a lot of, like Chelsea, a lot of the artists that have come out and like building our Wisteria Lane instead of Shakedown Street, we will have Wisteria Lane and building that. And what's going on in Wisteria Lane? What's going on in our community? We're going to be more connected. I think that that's something that a lot of these shows are missing and stuff. And a lot of the great part of the community of the music is the community. And it just gives me goosebumps to even talk about it, because, through the hard times, we're all there for each other. We've had charities or just, fundraisers for different people that have gone through different things. And so it's just keeping us connected with the community.
Absolutely. That's so great. I'm just excited to get to talk with all of you on a regular basis about Goose and about music. I'm also really excited that this is going to be a fan-focused show and that most of the voices that you'll hear on here will be women. There'll be LGBTQ plus folks, and we're going to have some really great, a lot of fun conversations and really substantive conversations about the things that are important to us in our regular lives and how that affects our connection to Goose, the Goose community, and to the music itself. So I'm super excited about all of that stuff. Last thing I wanted to mention is that we are so excited to be a part of the Osiris Media family. So they are the home for all of the Jam Band podcasts, and they are also the home for Goose Chicks Podcast. And so we're really excited to be a part of the Osiris family and excited to, pop up on some other shows. So you'll probably hear us on HF Pod or one of the other pods soon. And then obviously December is a big month for Goose always. We have Goosemas coming up in a couple of weeks, and then New Year's Eve, which I think some of us will be at. All of us at New Year's, maybe?
I'll be there.
Yep, I just got tickets yesterday.
Ooh, yeah, so all of us will be at New Year's in Cincy, so that's very exciting. And then I think some of us will be at Goosemas, which will be fun too. So yeah, you'll get to hear. One other thing we'll be rolling out soon is a phone number that we would love more Goose Chicks to just call in and talk about why they love the band, what their experiences have been like. And so you'll be able to see that, and you'll probably see us coming up to you and asking questions as well when we see you in real life. So be on the lookout for us. We'll be out in these Goose streets and also online. You can check us out, goosechickspodcast.com and Goose Chicks Pod on every social media platform that you might be on. So follow us, and that's about it. Any last words before we close out?
No, we're excited for the next thing, and thank you for joining.
Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Osiris.